Hey guys, it's Alex here, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a review on this Colourpop Rock Candy palette, and I also created this beautiful smoky spotlight eye today using the shades to test them out. So if you want to know what I think about this palette and if you want to see how I created this look, then just keep on watching. So first things first, here is the palette in its unit carton. It just says Rock Candy and it's this pretty like lilac colour. And then we open the palette up, it's pretty much the same as the unit carton. Rock Candy with that texture, and then it's got all of the shade names printed on the back. And here's the palette when it's open. It is so pretty. Here is a close-up of all of the shades. So first things first, you can see that this is more of a cool toned palette. I wouldn't say that it's like extremely cool toned, probably a little bit more closer to like a neutral cool tone. A lot of people were saying that this was similar to Colourpop's Stone Cold Fox palette. I would say there are some similarities in colors, but this is a pretty different palette. There's a lot more like pinky warm tones, and Stone Cold Fox is definitely like true cool tones. So this palette retails for $34 US, which is equivalent to 50 New Zealand dollars. And you have 35 shades in this mega palette, and it equates to about 97 US cents per shade, which is really cheap. So this palette retails for $34 US, which converts to 50 New Zealand dollars. You get 35 shades in the palette, which equate to about 97 US cents per shade, which is actually a lot cheaper than usual for Colourpop's eyeshadows. Normally they sit around the $1.50 per shade range, so this is quite a good deal. You get about 50-cent saving per shade in here, which is pretty good. So when I first saw this palette, it actually reminded me of the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1 palette. Obviously there's way more colours in this palette and the colours are a lot more cool toned, but just the structure of the palette was the one thing that I was like, I've seen that concept before. And it was in Tati Beauty's Textured Neutrals palette. The reason why is because literally this entire palette is set so you could create a whole look out of one row. So you can literally create a look just using the rows of colours here, because it seems like it's set out for you to be able to do that. So you could create a silver smoky eye, like a neutral pinky look, a more like coppery bronze look, then you go into your brown, your gold, and then your more like taupe navy colors. That's what it reminded me of, but I think that's really cool because I would use the palette like that, but obviously there's lots of pretty colors that you can mix and match. So there's actually 3 pressed glitters in this palette as well. Ring of Fire, Set Shale, and Metaphoric. They're all marked with little asterisks on their names. So I'm really excited to try some of those out today. I think we can create a really pretty look. Okay, so we've discussed a little bit about the palette, and now I think it's time to actually test it out and see if these shades are worth the hype and if it's worth actually spending the money on this palette. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, I've zoomed you guys in a bit closer so you can see what I'm doing, and I've just quickly prepped my eyes using the P. Louise base in the shade Rumour 2. I use this base for all of my eyeshadow looks, so it will really give the palette a good test today by using that. There's so many colours, I don't know which one I want to use. I was really drawn to the greys and silvers though. I think I'm going to use this like black and silver row today, but if there's any other colours you guys want me to use to create a look with this, let me know and I'll be happy to do so, just because there's so many options. I'm going to create a spotlight eye today because I think that would look so stunning with that silver glitter on top. So first I'm going to pick up this shade here called Hotspot. Okay, the black has a lot of kickback in the pan, but if it's pigmented, I'm not going to complain. Okay, that's pretty good. The black is very pigmented. Softly pressed for that reason, but wow. I'm pretty impressed. I don't think I've ever tried a black Colourpop eyeshadow before, but this one is amazing. Just popping that in at my outer corner as well. Probably one of the best blacks I've ever used. Oh my gosh. I look very goth right now, but that black is gorgeous. I'm gonna dip into this darker grey on the other side of the palette called So Tough. This one's also got quite a bit of kickback, but I'm just going to use that to blend this black up and out a bit. Gosh, these colours blend so beautifully. This one's really pigmented too, like you don't need to pick up a lot because they go a long way. So I'm just kind of shaping this into a little circular shape, and I'm leaving the middle bare just so that I can use that for the spotlight area. I'm going to pick up this shade here called This or That. It's got a little bit of shimmer in it, this colour, but it's a matte, and I'm just going to use that to blend everything out. There's some really unique colours in this palette which I really like. Like I don't actually own a lot of these colours, especially the taupey brown colours, because I'm typically not drawn to those, but because they're actually more cool toned, I really like them. And I feel like I'll wear those colours quite a lot, so I'm actually really excited about this palette. Alright, so we're just going to keep blending this out. I don't mind if it gets a bit messy, because usually it gets worse before it gets better, so you've got to trust the process. One thing I did want to mention is there actually is no like matte white in this eyeshadow palette, which isn't a big deal, but I usually do prefer palettes to have some sort of like nude transition colour, but that's fine, I can just use my translucent powder. I mean, like, typically a nude brown colour would be fine, but just because I'm working with greys and blacks, white really helps to make those colours pop. I'm going to try use one of the colours from the palette as like a transition shade. I'm going to pick up this shade here called Nugget. This might be a little bit too dark, so I'm going to test it on this eye. Oh no, that works nicely. Just go in with a light hand and use it just to... Actually, that is a little bit too dark. I'm just going to use a little bit of my translucent powder just because that shade was too dark. So I'm just going to messily kind of blend that in, and then we'll go back in and re-intensify those colours. Okay, so I'm just going to go back in with each of those colours and just make them a bit darker and focus on blending them a little bit more, and then I'll be back to move on to the next step. Now we've got this gorgeous monochromatic matte blend. That was a lot of M's. We're going to pop some shimmer on the lid now, which I'm really excited about because I want to test out one of the pressed glitters. So I will just clean up some of this fallout on my eye first. For black eyeshadows, this actually isn't too bad. But if you don't like fallout, or you usually do your base before your eyes, if you're going to use these colours, I would definitely do your eyes first. Just because, as you can see, it looks like I've got a black eye. So let's get rid of some of that. I'm just using a cotton round with a bit of makeup remover to remove that. So we have got some fun options. Obviously I want to use this in the center, but I want to put a base color down first. So I am going to put a bit more of my P. Louise base on my eyes, just so it's nice and sticky for these shimmer shades. Alright, and then I'm just taking my sponge to blend that in. This also just helps clean up any excess eyeshadow that's just come in a bit too far. So first I'm going to pick up this shade here called Too Cold For You. And I'm just going to pick this up on my finger, and I'm going to place that on at the very edge of that shimmer and matte. That is so glittery for a pressed eyeshadow. Oh my gosh! We haven't even used like the glitter shade, and I love this one. This is so cool. This would be amazing for a smoky eye. Wow. I'm just going to take the brush that had my darkest eyeshadow on it and just kind of use that to buff that colour out, just so we don't have a harsh line from matte straight into shimmer. Okay, and I'm just repeating the same thing on the other eye. Let's add another shade right down the center. Now I'm going to pick up this shade here called Solid. I'm also picking that up on my finger. That is the most gorgeous pressed shimmer I've ever seen. Wow, okay. The reason I'm actually picking these up with my finger too is because I feel like shimmers just don't perform as well on a brush. They just perform so much better with your finger. So let's apply this on the center of the lid. What? Oh. That is so metallic. Let's do it on the other side. I don't even have that much product on my finger. That is the most insane silver I have ever used. Wow. These shimmers are just beautiful. That is so reflective. Colourpop really popped off. Holy. Okay. I'm speechless. There's a little bit of fallout under my eye, which again, not really bad considering it is a shimmer, so I will just remove some of that. I'm truly gobsmacked by those colours. Okay, I'm just taking an M213 brush and just using that to just blend that edge out, and then we'll go back in with those other shades and just make it so it's a little bit more concentrated. I swear I pushed the record button, but I don't think it registered on my camera. I just put some of that pressed glitter on my eyelid. I used this shade here called Ring of Fire. So as you can see, this glitter is literally amazing. I was just saying how it's pretty much weightless on the eyes. It's really fine pieces of glitter, and it just doesn't feel like your typical pressed glitters. Like, you know when you put a glitter on your eyelid and you can just feel it there? here, this doesn't feel like that. It's really comfortable, so I'm a big fan of these. I'm just gonna quickly go and do my base makeup and then we'll be back to finish off the eyes. Alright, so I'm back and I have done my base. Now we're going to finish off the eyes. I'm gonna dip back into this shade here called Hotspot. And I'm just running that under my lower lash line. And then I'm gonna pick up the shade So Tough. And I'm just using that to lightly blend that shade out. And then I'm going to pick up this shade here called This or That. And I'm just going to use that as my final shade under the lower lash line. Just to make sure everything's seamless, I'm just taking my translucent powder and just going around the perimeter of those shades. In the waterline today, I'm going to take this Colourpop cream gel liner in the shade Exit. And I've just popped that in my waterline. For some extra silver sparkle, I'm going to take this Peaches Makeup Loose Pigment in the shade Disco. I'm just putting that under my brow bone and in my inner corner. I'm just going to pop on some mascara and lashes and then I'll be back to discuss my final thoughts. Alright guys, here is a close-up of the finished look. And here is the finished full face look. Alright, so we have tested out the palette and I think it's safe to say that I am really happy with how the colours that I used today performed. Just a quick recap, this palette retails for $34 US. That's equivalent to 97 cents per shade, and there are 35 shades in the palette. The shadows did have a little bit of kickback and fallout on the face, so if that is something that bothers you, please keep that in mind. It didn't bother me and I thought it was quite minimal considering how pigmented the shades were. I also thought the eyeshadows were really easy to blend and really pigmented. But yeah, I'm really impressed with the shades I used. The pressed glitter shade that I put all on my spotlight eye isn't creasing as well, which is really good. So I really like that formula and I'm excited to try more of the colours. So to sum it up, yeah, I think this palette is worth the money. I think you get a really good amount of shades for the price. It's definitely cheaper than if you were to buy a lot of Colourpop's 9 pans. This is the first mega palette I've actually bought from Colourpop and I love it so much. This is probably one of my favourite purchases ever from them, just because the shadows are really impressive and those pressed glitter shades are to die for. So that concludes my review on the Colourpop Rock Candy Mega Palette. I think this palette is amazing and really worth picking up if you don't have these shades. A lot of the shades are quite unique, which I really like about that, and if you prefer more neutral to cool tone eyeshadows, then this is the palette for you. So I'm going to sum up today's video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you found this review and tutorial helpful, please give it a big thumbs up. It helps push my channel out to new potential viewers. And if you're not yet already subscribed and you want to see more content from me, hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so that you never miss a video. If you'd like to see any other looks that I don't create here, check out my Instagram at MakeupWithAlix. All my social media links are linked down below. And as always, all products that I've used today will be linked down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!